Start. There we go. Now we're on the air. Hello, everyone. This is the inaugural Emacs SF Emacs Hangout. And that's about all I have to say. I just wanted to make sure we had that at the beginning.
All right, it's live. Okay, awesome.
We got Lee
hey guys
with us. Hey.
Hi, I'm Ag.
So this is the inauguration.
Yeah.
Inauguration of Emacs Hangout.
Yeah, finally we're doing it again. I think Sasha used to do that periodically, and the last one I think was dated about 2 years ago, maybe, or I don't remember. And it was pretty sad because they were very good and very entertaining and educational. And I'm glad we're doing that again. So this is cool.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Sacha was extremely helpful in helping figure out everything that's wrong with my setup here. So and Lee as well. So it sounds like it's working. I can see YouTube is updating and everything. So this is really exciting. Hi, Howard.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. I'm glad you could make it.
Me too. I'm just I've got a new computer here, and I'm trying to figure it out.
All right. Were you were a regular guest on Sacha's Hangouts, right? Or you have been?
Yeah. When she was doing them back before, it was always fun to get on there.
Yeah.
How many? I think I missed it. How many did she do? I mean, Sasha's Hangout.
Quite a lot, I think.
Already? Okay.
Yeah. And they're pretty timeless, like the things that were discussed. There's a good one with Bojidar. He discusses like certain things. There are very good ones with John Wigley.
I know what you mean. That's the video interviews.
The interviews,
right?
Yeah, those I've seen.
Yeah. So as I understand, we don't have a solid agenda for tonight, right? What you guys want to talk about? What we're going to be discussing, or do we have an agenda, Jeff?
Well, there's two things. There is one person posted a comment asking if we could. Let me see. What was the comment? Oh, I don't know what happened to it, but someone put a comment up asking, how do you search for Greek words in a document? And I think that's maybe a question of like Unicode searching or something like that. I don't know what happened to that question. Well, somebody posted that question earlier. And then otherwise, I was thinking we could actually just use Sacha's weekly update as a starting point for conversation. And that's on the YouTube page.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The like latest news and things from Reddit, subreddit, Emacs subreddit.
Right, that's good.
Yeah.
Lee, you're actually referenced in one of these in Sacha's update. Do you want to talk about the benefits of, what was it, using 2 windows in a frame versus 2 separate frames?
Oh yeah, that's the blog post. So yeah. We are looking at Sasha's. Let me get the link. Let me go to the page. Okay, it's on the YouTube link here. Hangout. So we just go through the list. Helpful 1 year. Well, the thing I'm talking about, I mean, is that I hear a lot of people complain in Emacs, like how do they keep their panes or windows set up. Like usually you have a full, like some people have a full screen. Then you split panes. Like this one is your working buffer, and that one is your messages or whatever. This is your directory tree. Then they type describe function or something. Then Emacs pops up some help buffer that screws up your pen or whatever is supposed to be there. Then you try to get it back, and I hear a lot of people have that problem. I mean, one solution is that you use, I think it's winner mod. Then you can call the winner mod command. I don't remember what it is exactly. But you call a command, then it returns your previous pen configuration with whatever buffer you have there. So that's
it's called winner undo.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So some people use that, and for some reason I don't go full screen. And I prefer, like when I start Emacs, I have 2 frames or two different windows. Then I feel that way is better because Emacs will never change the frame. I mean, Emacs will never change or close the window. Whatever windows or Emacs frame you have open there, it stays there. It stays the position they are wherever they are. And usually operating system like Mac or Linux or Windows provide much more commands or operations to control your Windows position, like full screen or toggle full screen or move it to the side, stick to the panel, or whatever. So Emacs will not touch it. Then within each Emacs frame, then you can split whatever you want, but it won't be permanent. I mean, you use it as whatever you want to do, split or unsplit. So that way you don't have the problem of Emacs screwing up your nicely set up panes. So that's what I do. So then the iReal guy, I think the iReal.org, I think, and I think his name is John. He wrote an article saying that actually full frame is not bad. It's like similar. So I tried to use the full frame workflow again, but the one problem I immediately run to is that I need to see my browser in the back. Like usually I want to see the browser, I need to see the browser on the side. So I cannot do that with full frame. So
usually the problem with multiple frames, or like people wanting multiple frames. Lee, I think I have an echo. Can you mute?
You think what?
I'm having an echo. Can you mute?
Oh, okay. Let me try.
Thank you. Oh, cool. So usually the problem with people wanting to have multiple frames, or it's because they need context switching between, they usually work with multiple projects, and even within the same project you can have different context. So you can have window configuration for like doing tests, for example, and like a different window configuration for writing code. So for tests you may have 3 splits, or like for tests, or like for code you may have only 2 splits. So that's I find myself never, almost ever, needing a additional frame, and most of the time I work in full screen setup. On a Mac, and on Linux it's a completely different story. I'll get to that. So there are 2 things I mostly use. It's perspectives and Spacemacs, they also called layouts, which is great for having a different context for different projects.
What are they? Perspectives?
Yeah, let me share my screen and I'll show you.
Yeah.
Emacs.
Oh, type the package names.
I can see is this Emacs? This is, I think, Emacs screen. So you can see my Emacs, right?
It's a little small,
Yeah.
the text.
Is it big enough?
I can read it.
That's good. Good for
All
me.
right. So you can see that right now I'm in one context, but if I'm switching between projects, I press space L, and this is in Spacemacs, it's default binding. And you can see that I have multiple projects here. I have my org context. I have Spacemacs related stuff. I have my project that I'm working right now. Which is like, my main work. And you can switch between them, and you can have completely separate window configuration for each of them in each project. And whenever you switch, the window configuration will retain. And not just that, you can also have buffers. So if I do buffers here, it will open only the buffers related to this layout or this perspective, right? And perspectives also have they can be integrated with projectile. So your project will be limited to this perspective, and you can switch between perspectives, right? And each perspective may be a context. It may be a project. So here I usually do this is my org perspective, and I have lots of things here. And I can have windows, and I can switch between different perspectives. But also sometimes within as I said, within the same project, you may want to have different window configurations. And for that, thing called, let me see, it's called eyebrows. And the project, let me, I cannot show.
Eyebrows, that's a separate package or part of it?
Yeah.
Using both at the same time?
Yeah, I have them both, but they have different different purposes. So eyebrows is actually it's good for keeping context within the single project. So perspectives, .l, they're good for separating context between different projects. Eyebrows mode is good to have different window configurations. So here, for example, I'm in a project called FinOps Admin. This is my work project, right? And here I want to, for example, have different window configuration for tests and different window configuration for something else. So I can say create second workspace and change window configuration, add some splits, open some files. I don't know, let me do this one. And here, let's open something else. I don't know, project. You can see that now I am in the same project. I don't want to switch to, it's in the same project, but I want to go back to a different, to previous window configuration. So you see these small numbers on the side. It says 2 and 3. This is, I think 2 means this is a second window layout. If I switch to 1, it changes, you see, and I have a complete different set of windows, but I'm still within the same project. So this is very handy. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. I actually turned eyebrows off just because I thought it was conflicting, but I see you can do them both.
Yeah, you can actually use both perspectives. They have the concept is similar, but you can use them for different purpose. I use them to separate the projects and window configuration. And there's another thing that I don't use much. Well, Windows purpose, like you can say a dedicated window for a specific thing. For example, if you're you can dedicate a window to always have REPL in it, and and it will always keep that REPL. Whenever you switch to REPL buffer, it will open in that window. But I think I don't like magical things. I like to have full complete control over my window configuration. And on Linux, I actually use something I started using not too long ago. I've been using Mac for the past several years, and I had Linux computer, but because I mainly do my work on Mac, I never actually spend good amount of time trying to set things up. And I found EXWM, which is Emacs Window Manager. And for a long time, I wanted to try it. And finally I did. And I immediately regretted not trying that thing sooner. It's simply amazing. One thing, I can relate to the blog post Lee had about the window managers. Window managers are the purpose of window managers. You remember your blog post, right, Lee? About criticizing the workflow with window managers. It's usually better to have a single screen or multiple monitors, and not to deal with many windows. Emacs does it right. Emacs does it nicely. But my complaint about window managers in Linux, that very few of them allow you to do. It's not about your window configuration. It's about keyboard shortcuts. Apparently, which was very surprising to me, making certain complex key bindings, key rebindings in Linux surprisingly very hard. So I wanted, for example, to have a modality like in Emacs. So I want to, on the operating system level, I wanted to have something like pressing Control-C, and then multiple times, and it will just every time it will wait for me to press something else. So I would like to press Control-C and then Control-X and something, and the operating system does something, right? Or I wanted to switch between the tabs in my browser with Command H and L, which is without leaving the home row. And I found that it's natively doing that in Linux is pretty hard. There are ways, but they're always kind of complicated. So I found that EXWM, you can actually simulate the keys. You can, because everything goes through Emacs, you can do the keys that you kind of fake other keys. You for example, everything goes through Emacs, and you can say whenever I press Control-C and something, it would actually fake the key that native in that application, right? So what I did, I was able to do Command H and L to switch tabs in my browser, and everything becomes a buffer in Emacs, like any app, and it's pretty cool.
How big is
I
the
like it.
How big is the EWX thing?
EXWM, I don't think it's big. It's actually uses I forgot what's it called.
And it's C code, right? It's C.
No, it's Emacs Lisp. It's
So
Emacs Lisp package. It's I stopped sharing, right? Yeah.
What's the technology that they use to make it happen, to allow Emacs to have X window things?
So it actually it's basically uses XCLB, which is X protocol, Emacs list binding, right? And it manages like your operating windows, like operating system windows for you, but from within Emacs. And it appears that Emacs becomes your operating system. It basically becomes your window manager, just like Xmonad or i3. But
so it only works.
I want someone to show it to me. Because
I wish I had my Linux computer, but I'm at work and I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering if anybody else online has it right here. Because yeah, I've been wanting to see it for a while. Since the only Linux machine I have at the moment is a server and a virtual machine. So
I think, I saw you use it last time. I mean, from our point of view, it's indistinguishable. I mean, we just see a normal Emacs without the buffers, right?
Exactly, and that's the point. Emacs becomes on top of everything, and you don't have to care about like where you at. Like everything becomes Emacs buffer. And the next thing I did, I actually wrote like the almost next day, I wrote a package called XVMEdit, which allows you to edit anything in Emacs. So in any Windows, in any app, you can, just like in org mode, you know how you edit things in source code, in org mode source block, right? So you can press Control C, Control single quote, and it will allow you to edit anything in any window. It just opens up a window, and you can edit just almost anything in Emacs, and that's pretty great because you have all the arsenal of all the tools that you already have in Emacs. You have your syntax checker, your syntax highlighting, and like, you know, for example, like one use, if you're a front-end developer like myself, and you do write JavaScript in DevTools panel, right? You can open that window, switch to JavaScript mode, and have the highlighting and everything, and like write some JavaScript and press Control C, and it goes back. And the idea is pretty simple. What it basically does, it emulates pressing Control A and Control C, copies that stuff into clipboard, and then like opens the a window split next to the thing you opened, and paste that text, and you can edit that text. And when you press Control C through the clipboard, it goes back and pastes like where it was previously. Hi, Tina.
Hey, Tina.
Hey.
Are we all having dinner? I am.
Hey,
How's it going?
good. This morning I had a weird problem where my I had functions in the Afterinit hook, and they were trying to run with each other as arguments. I have no idea why. It was some black magic. And I made sure to like update Emacs and update all my packages just to make sure it wasn't some fleeting bug I had in there.
Did you just upgrade Emacs or?
Well, I'm running 26.1.
So what's the hook? I mean, what's the package?
Well, like what is it? There's the MU4E. I have no idea how to say, but
you using that?
Yeah, I'll try to put the update function as a hook into the Afterinit hook, and then it'll complain to me that something else is some completely unrelated package I had was trying to run it, the function code itself, inside a lambda as an argument to this other package.
Aaron, please mute.
That also was in the Afterinit hook. I don't know who that is.
Aaron, I think.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah.
I found the control.
Yeah, so I don't know why functions in my Afterinit hook are running each other, because I tried different ways of configuring it, and sometimes other packages would try to run that other one as a argument, and I'm like, why are hook functions in a hook being passed arguments at all? And I have no idea why. So some anomaly is happening in my Emacs installation. I don't know where to start looking.
Well, that happens sometimes. I'm still really surprised, like, that the average Emacs user usually uses like a lot more packages than average any user of any other editor. For example, I just checked. I actually consume 338 packages.
Wow.
Which is a lot. And yeah, sometimes I do have to deal with upstream problems because I have a bad habit updating things in the morning, because I'm just like, I want to have like the latest and greatest stuff, and sometimes things break and I'm like, oh gosh, like what the heck is happening?
How long does it take for your Emacs to start fresh?
I'll tell you exactly how long it takes. It takes less than a second.
No.
Yeah, it does.
So how is that done? That's impossible. I mean, I only have like 5 packages, and my Emacs starts like, it'll be like a minute or two.
So I was lying. It actually, like, initial load, of all the packages I consume, it takes 5 seconds, five something seconds. But it varies from time to time. One of the new things I wanted to try is the new dumper, which we discussed not too long ago, and it was great, and I heard like really good things about this. And some I've heard, like, a few of my coworkers, they actually tried it, and they say Emacs and org mode, org buffers open like almost instantly. This is great, and I think it will be the plan that the portable dumper will be added in Emacs 27, which may be sooner than we think.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, but mostly it's done by, since I'm using Spacemacs, and Spacemacs guys usually they do they basically defer any loading until later. So Emacs may be opening, like, starting fast, but if I open my org buffers, it takes some time to, like, to start to load all org related packages, abrefs, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, what's up? Oh. So what did you guys hear? Did you guys hear violin music or something, or what? Why did you mute me?
Yeah, we have a problem with echoes. Like right now, if I use my speaker phone, then it'll create echoes. So we have, like, either use headset, or when you speak, when you are not speaking, mute your microphone.
Oh, you got it.
It was a kind of orchestral flourish of something in the background. It was like,
Okay, yes, that's my wife. She's a violinist. She's practicing.
Oh, wow, no kidding. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Have how long have you been using Emacs, and what's your main interest in it?
I think I first tried out Emacs around the year 2001 or so is when I first tried it out. I downloaded it for Windows because I had a crappy old Windows system, and I was like, "Hey, I want to use open source software and learn. I want to learn about that." And I just I didn't. I tried to build Emacs, and I didn't have Visual Basic, and I think that's what I needed to build it. I tried MinGW, and I couldn't make it work, and that's always been my dream goal. And I thought, okay, well, I just need to use Linux, and so I'm kind of a bit of a yak shaver. I tend to just I think, okay, I want to accomplish one goal, and then I want to do it the best way possible. I need to actually accomplish another goal, and then to do that in the best way possible, I need to accomplish another goal. So I eventually decided
to
go with Linux. I need to go with Linux. So around 2008, I finally got around to dropping Windows and using Linux. So then I started like trying to build stuff, and I built some really trivial things to start with, and I didn't get Emacs like working right off the bat, but eventually I got Emacs building, so that was kind of my thing for like the past couple of years. I was building my own Emacs. And I do that like on a almost daily basis at one point, and I think it'd be really cool if like we had more people doing that too. So I want to encourage other people to build Emacs, and I mean, because if you can't build it, you got to I mean, you can't really contribute. And the idea was like, if I can build it, I knew I could program, even though I didn't have like any eLisp experience. I knew I was able to program because I had done it as a kid, and I was like, well, how can I contribute back to Emacs or anything if I can't build it? So that was like my main programming goal for a long time. And I finally got around to building it, and it's pretty cool.
There are bodybuilders and there are Emacs builders. So your wife is a musician, and it pops a question. Anybody used Emacs for musical notation using LaTeX, LilyPond? GNU LilyPond, and other things? No, I'm just curious. I'm not a musician, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd like to know about that too.
Yeah, I played with the Clojure interface to Super Collider and was hooking on a lot of bindings that way. That said, I didn't. It was mostly working in Clojure, just editing it in Emacs as opposed to trying to get actual eLisp to call it. That's what I got.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen people like, since the Clojure gives you REPL and CIDR is great. I write Clojure full time myself, and it's great language. Yeah. So I was actually talking about the music notation, the notes and stuff in Emacs. Yeah.
LilyPond, that's written in common list, right? Or is it Scheme?
I have no idea. I'm not a musician. I've never used that.
Oh yeah, I think it's old. I mean, I must have heard of it. Like,
I thought it was LaTeX.
LilyPond?
I thought it was LaTeX.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, this is kind of timely because the Satya's list had something about making music with Emacs on it.
Oh, nice.
You see this? One of the early ones in there.
Oh yeah.
Making music in Emacs on Reddit. Oh, it's a video. Whoops. I don't want to play that right now. Did anyone look at that one?
Quick intro to live programming with overtone. That's what it says. I haven't.
Well, that's the same thing, the closure thing. It is great fun. I wish I had some abilities, but
Yeah, overtone is pretty cool.
Oh, right. It was so I'm looking at I started up Emacs on my laptop and it's having the same problem. So something in my configuration. And it's the Emojify mode line, which is to get emojis in the mode line. It has an item in the hook, a function, and it's for some reason it's trying to run the hook function for updating mu4e, but it's running the code of that function as a lambda function for when it shouldn't be running an argument at all. So I have no idea where to start with that one.
Emoji in my line, that must be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember someone's blog post not too long ago, and a guy who supposedly used Emacs for like 10 years or something moved to Visual Studio Code because allegedly it has better emoji support. I was like, well, really?
Yeah, no,
like,
I actually read this about that whole. This is the guy who wrote FlyCheck, right?
no, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I think
that, but
yeah. I don't know. It was because he was. I mean, my understanding of it is that he stopped using Emacs partly because he was tired of sort of the he stopped using Emacs, and the rumor had it that he was like tired of the whole sort of community, sort of not the community in the sense, but the sort of the Stallman wing that's like super doctrinaire, and it's something that and then he just had this rant in a blog post about how Stallman had said like, no, you can't have support, Mac OS 10 color emojis until it's available on like free operating systems, because this is, in his mind, this is a war against the evils of. Whereas I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool, but that's. But yeah, I think I can understand. Yeah, it's the sort of fundamental split in the open source and like the free software world. So it's in the end we all work together anyway because we like it.
Have anyone have not seen the Neon Cat mod line?
Oh, it must be adorable.
The mod line. There's a mod line for it in Emacs, right?
I've seen that on other people's Emacs's before. Yeah, like gives this long sort of rainbow colored tail.
Yeah,
indicating how long the file is or how far you are through the file, or the book, I should say.
I don't think it indicates anything. I might be wrong, but I tried it. Yeah.
It basically works like a scroll bar. It indicates the position in the file.
Speaking of minor modes, I noticed something kind of cool. I've been kind of curious about minor modes for a while because we often talk about them. And I'm interested in topics for the meetup group, right? So Satya's list has an article by Chris Wellens called How to Make an Emacs Minor Mode. Oh, actually, it looks like it's kind of an old one. I wonder if that was, maybe it just popped up on Reddit recently, but it looks like it's from 2013. Would that make a good meeting topic sometime? And have anybody written there in minor mode? Is it easier in major mode?
I think we written a blog post quite some time ago about both how to write a minor mode, and it's pretty helpful. I think I've used it like the first time when I needed to write a minor mode.
Yeah, it's not horrid.
Let me think on minor modes.
He was just showing that there's this easy skeleton define minor mode, and it kind of sounds like it's easy to start with a really simple example and then elaborate it.
Oh, yeah, has anyone used skeleton? Because I've seen that in the package manager, or Skeletor, whatever it's called.
I think it's called Skeletor.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I was kind of curious if anyone uses that or anything like that. Just sort of giving it's supposed to be a script that gives just like a very basic project outline, all the various things you need, and that's helpful for me because I always get stuck on not being sure which random hacker boilerplate notices I need and which I don't.
Oh yeah, Skeletor. Wait, is that? I thought that's very old. It's not.
Oh, maybe I don't know. It's something I found.
Is it the template thing, like abbreviation and template?
Yeah, or well, it works on Cask, I know, which seems to be better known. Which also has to do with like project management and Emacs. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking at the description. Skeletor provides project templates for Emacs. It also automates the mundane parts of setting up a new project, like version control, licenses, and tooling. So.
For a full project or just a file?
Yeah, it creates a basic project like with a simple directory structure and with the few like.
Oh, I see.
And like templates for like the really required stuff like README and licenses and stuff.
Oh, I see.
There's probably one for every language, but that would be nice to have something that's kind of general.
I think it's unrealistic to have something like that general. And to be honest, I never liked this like code generators. So I prefer to do things by hand. I remember like getting into Yeoman and like creating those generators, and like they always screw up things, and you end up having to deal with things, especially if like if you're dealing with dynamically typed language, it's just unwieldy.
I saw it as more just like something to start a project with, and then just a very basic outline of what you need, and then you by hand, and then there isn't any real code. It's just a place to put code. It's just starting you off with whatever things you're expected to have going in. That's my understanding of it, anyway.
Well, thanks for letting us know about that, Tina. That sounds like a good way to start about on writing stuff for Emacs. I've done so little myself. I have a feeling that would be a good way for me to get going, and also I guess it helps with the requirements for distributing a package on ELPA.
Yeah.
Correctly, which I've heard are hard, or tedious anyway.
I don't find publishing package on Melpa tedious, but I'm talking about Melpa, not ELPA. So, well, Melpa is pretty straightforward.
For the first time, I mean, it took me a day. I like the first time you have to figure out, Like you have to figure out what's the requirement exactly. So yeah, for Melpa. But once you have one package up, then it's kind of routine.
Yeah, I like things in Emacs, how over the years they actually would build some style guides. It's like I've been thinking about like maybe like gathering my thoughts about and actually making a talk that titled "The Worst of Lisps Them All," because people Lispers, they say that Emacs Lisp is really the worst of all the Lisps. I don't find it to be that bad, to be honest. Like certain things are nicer compared even with Clojure. Like, you know, you can, for example, like the doc strings and style guides for doc strings. There's something like built in Emacs called check doc. It checks your doc strings and tells you how to format them, how to actually like make sentences, and it's really nice. Certain things like, you know, I like it. It's like it's pretty nice.
Oh, I didn't know about CheckDoc.
Yeah,
is an interactive auto.
That's cool. Yeah, LDoc is a godsend. I wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of Emacs Lisp without LDoc. And completion stuff is really nice.
Can you tell us more about that? I've never used it.
Oh, LDoc, it's just a thing that displays when your cursor is in an Emacs function, or you're calling an Emacs function, it'll display the syntax for it and all the what the different arguments are, and it highlights whichever argument you're on. And it's tonight. One of the things that frustrates me most about programming languages is remembering the order of this in the syntax of every single function you need, and it's in this case just right there, and yeah, that helps me immeasurably. That and rainbow delimiters, so I can have the parentheses are different colors. That also solves a major Lisp problem.
I wonder if this is a good time to bring up since we're sort of briefly touching on ELPA, I wonder if this is a good time to bring up that question I got. I think it was a question in IRC for us to talk about opinions on alternative package management solutions such as Borg, Straight, Quelpa, I guess that is, so you don't rely exclusively on ELPA and MELPA. Anyone tried one of these sort of I was going to say less official package management solutions?
I haven't used Borg, but I do have my Emacs directory is all in Git version control, and I have some Git submodules in there that are different packages I couldn't find on Melpa, but were on the Emacs wiki Git mirror, and that seemed like the easiest way to get them. But I don't really know how to update them automatically or anything fancy like that.
Yeah, I ran into something like that today, actually, looking at we just had this speaker talk about, George Pittarelli talked about LSP mode, and I was trying to configure it today, and I found that I had to git clone this very small mode, which is just for C++, that it configures LSP right to use Clang. And now you mention it, I think probably the submodules would have been a much better move instead of simply cloning it. I could have added a submodule, but Git submodules are so weird, you know, and kind of annoying to work with, and I don't know. Anyone else have something like that where you have a package that's not in ELPA or MELPA, but it's on GitHub and you want to use it?
Yeah, I mean, if you if you did a submodule, what would it buy you actually? I mean, you still have to kind of point it inside of it, so you might as well just clone it.
Well, It's because the directory, all my Emacs settings is already a Git repository, and so I
Right,
like,
but you still kind of have to set the Emacs path to, you know, each individual one.
Oh, right. Yeah, that I use a file.
Guess
I
you
put together with advice from Stack Exchange, but yeah, have a function to recurse into like some specific directories, and then add all the subdirectories. I'll add that directory and all the subdirectories to the load path.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, all right, then in that case, then Git submodule doesn't sound like a bad idea.
I think the other advantage is since it's already under Git, then the submodule has its own way of, like, you can actually track the revision of that submodule as part of the history of the parent. You know, you say, all right, I updated the version of this submodule to this particular hash, and that's the commit in the parent. You know, and that seems to be better than my approach of simply cloning it, where it doesn't retain any of the history of like what version I grabbed or anything like that.
Honestly, in order to sync or in order to sync my Git, my settings repository, I found this script called git sync, and the introductory comments for it say like, do you need if you need to if you want to use this, you know, be sure to know, for instance, how to finish a failed rebase. And I was like, okay, look up what a git rebase is, and then I'm just like, ah! And I
Good thing you got magic.
yeah, and so I made my own. I actually, for the first time, made my own fork of that, just to so I could replace rebase with merge, so I can understand it better. So I was not touching that.
So Git submodules is a new feature they just added. Is that right?
Git submodules? No, Git submodules were like long time. They just historically for a long time they were very painful to work with, and they had some quirks. I think I might be wrong. They got improved lately, and like people say they're not as painful as they used to be, but I can't say that how less painful they are today.
But okay, I might be confusing with another issue. I mean, so can you check out a subdirectory from a Git project? Is that what submodule do, or is it different? Or
well, it's like a smaller Git repository inside your Git repository.
okay.
I think of it as a reference to another Git repo. In fact, not just a reference, but a reference to a specific version of it, so that you can say, like, maybe that the thing that you're using, you have a dependency on, you say, I'm using this version from this specific time, which I've tested, I know it's good, I like it, and everything like that. And then it can move on independently. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to build with the very latest of every dependency I have, and you can do that as well. You have real control over the versions of your dependencies there. I've used it in projects before for that, and it's just a little clunky. It kind of does the job. You tend to need to wrap it a little bit because all those Git commands are sort of painful.
Is it sort of like a soft link? The sub Git directory?
A soft link is a particular version.
For packages that, for example, the packages I'm constantly like working myself and like developing and trying out, I usually like keep them in separate directory and have a symlink to local directory within the package, and use package lets you like load things that's sitting locally, and that's been working fine for me.
Howard, I'm glad you could join us today. I've seen a lot of your videos. Are you working on anything cool now?
Yeah, I just pasted something. I could show something I've been doing here. Let's see. Okay, you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So left side is my engineering workbook for the week, my sprint work. I don't know if you've ever tried to clock into an org mode task. I'm just going to clock into this guy here, and it just puts the current time in, and and then let's I don't know. I better put some stuff in here, huh? There we go. All right, so now I've got some text in here. I can type in whatever I want. But what I've found is that usually I'm either going in from like investigating a project, or I'm investigating some kind of a concept where I'm going to go off to web pages and grab things, this sort of stuff. So let's suppose I found something really cool on this web page here. Of course, you want to copy and paste all this stuff, right? These are links. Now you gotta, if you're gonna copy and paste into Emacs like that, you're gonna have to convert all the links over and maybe a lot of the formatting. So let's just copy some of this over here, and I'm just gonna hit a single key. And there it is. So what I did is I hit a key.
Oh, nice.
So I hit a key that takes whatever the current application is highlighted, and it copies the contents into the clipboard as HTML. Then what I do is I kick off a script that takes that code and throws it through Pandoc, which converts it from HTML to org mode. And then it calls org capture string, which allows me to say, send that to my current clocked in task. And then it just drops it in. And so what it allows me to do is just kind of keep going from page to page to page. I can highlight, send, and I never have to actually look at what I'm sending until later on during the day, when I'll go back and then start to kind of clean it up and comment on it and that sort of thing.
Oh,
This
wow.
is really cool. I really want to see it.
This is on a Mac.
So I put all this up on, up on my blog here. First kind of talking about how to send stuff to your clocked in task. It's just this little clock.
A capture template. Yeah.
Very
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So then I did a few other things, including writing a little shell script to call org capture string. That way, I can be in a terminal, execute some commands, and the last thing I'll just pipe it to this script, and it'll again throw it in there. But the fun one was trying to get it from a browser. Now I'm cheating a little bit, and I'm using some Mac specific stuff, but I think I can do the same thing with Linux. So when my Linux machine gets here, I'm going to try seeing what I can do to convert that. But basically, you just have to run a script of some sort to call Pandoc. And yeah, I'm just kind of hacking a few things here at the moment, but the idea is to call Emacs client, you call the org capture string with what you just did, and away you go.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Since we started talking about capture, I want to share my workflow with capture. So I have a very long commute, and I try to use my commute, try not to sleep because I've become accustomed, like whenever I get to the train, I feel sleepy almost immediately. But I try to read something, and I try to follow, like, read through my Twitter feed and stuff. So what I do, whenever I like something on Twitter, or which brings to the point, I have a difficult mental understanding the difference between liking a tweet and retweeting it. So anyway, if I like the tweet, if I like something, I put something on Reddit. If I put something on Hacker News, or like something on YouTube, what happens? I have. Let me share my screen. So what I do, where is it? Where is it? Share your screen. I use IFTTT, which is if it stands if this, then that. So I have to sign in. So the script, continue with Google. I think I have to use a different account. Let me see. No, that's not. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. My applets. No, that's my sign out. So anyway, the applet is pretty easy, and it's pretty small. So basically, it creates. It says when something happens, when I like something, it basically appends something in my Dropbox, and that something is actually a piece of text, and that piece of text is an org mode file. And whenever something appears, it actually appears in file Pocket. This Pocket TXT. It's a text file. And it's, since org mode is just, oh, I'm not sharing anymore. I'm sorry. I thought I was still sharing. So it appends that into this file. But then I have this read later, which has this piece of code. Still is statement here. It says process IFTTT. So the need to process anything in IFTTT, well, why? Like, you cannot consume it right away because some formatting would be like broken. And let's just go to that function. It's been a while since I wrote it. Work no.
You're logging this because I'm intrigued.
So IFTTT. Oh. Probably in functions. IFTTT. So what this does, it basically traverses those things from, like, those text entries, and it basically
oh, so does it go through everything that's in there and just pull it in?
Yes, it pulls it in. It adds a deadline. So it says, like, if I, like, the reason for the deadline. So if I don't read, so basically it appears in my agenda later like this. Let me start my agenda. It appears like a list of things that I need to read or follow. If I don't do that, it actually adds a deadline, and it says, like, hey, you needed to do this that long time ago, or, like, something like that. And I almost never lose things. So and since I use Orgsglee on my Android phone, I can always go back and, like, and read it on my phone. And yeah, it's pretty great. I found that Dropbox has a limitation. You cannot, like, it keeps appending until it reaches 1,000 lines on the file. That's why I needed to use a just a buffer file, like a pocket txt, and I take that from pocket txt and add it to my other file, right? So basically, this is what happens. I probably should show you the. Let me actually. I need to go and show the applet. Internet is IFTTT. Just bear with me. My applets. So my applets. So for example, this is a Dropbox, right? So if new like tweet by this is my Dropbox handle, and then I append to a text file in my Dropbox, and how do I edit this? Let's see what applet looks like. So this is the applet. It says create a to-do with some properties, and the properties drawer, it's the org mode thing. So I always know when it's added, the URL to it, and the fresh flag I was experimenting with, like, if it's just added, then like, do something. If it's not fresh, I don't think I'm using this anymore. But basically, this is like what get appended to that file, and then whenever I open org mode, it it processes it. So basically, that's my thing to capture.
Like
but
now, if we could just put pandoc in that thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I could use pandoc and just like but I think your workflow, like it's slightly can be more complicated because it has like links and stuff like that. But I like it. I like the idea. I rarely have to do that. Get the like a selected content, copy that into the. I usually if I like a blog post, I put it in my pocket, which also known as read it later, which also has my applet that whenever I did this because I used to use a pocket, read it later, but then I keep forgetting, it's in my pocket, but I never read it. It's just it just stays there forever. But if it's in my agenda, I periodically I go through my agenda, I see those items, and I and I either skip them if I'm not interested, or lower the priority, or or I go and read that thing, and you can always put some notes and stuff, and org mode is just an amazing thing. I never lose any stuff. It's it's there. I know I know it's there, and I'm probably not gonna lose it.
That's a cool flow, man. I was wondering, were you present at John Wigley's talk? Well, he spoke for 45 minutes at our org session about his flow. Do you remember? I could have sworn he said he captured things on his watch. And then after the fact, I thought I must have been dreaming that he said that. Anyone?
No, he did mention that he does something on his watch, which I was thinking about doing. I have Samsung Gear and doing something like that, but usually I do things on my phone, and this working through the IFTTT works for me. The only drawback that you need to use Dropbox, because I don't think IFTTT supports something better than Dropbox, like a BitTorrent sync or something else, and it also not immediate. So IFTTT takes some time, but I know like if I like it, I'm not gonna be reading it right away, right? So it takes sometimes it may take a few minutes to actually pop up in your Dropbox, and I still need to process it somehow. Like, you know, I still need to go, and usually whenever I open like that file, since it's at the top, it says like, you know, hey, do it. I can probably like set a timer to do it periodically, but like I don't read things right away. I usually come back to them like days later.
Anyone else use Orgsly? It's interesting you mentioned that. I installed it, and I've only used it like one time when I was going to Maker Faire, and I was sitting at my desk at home, and I had to write down every place I wanted to go. I wanted it to be on my phone, and I was like, I'll do this in org mode, and I'll put it on Orgsly, and then that's the only use I've made of it. What do people do with Orgsly?
Well, I use it constantly. Anytime I'm talking to somebody and I'm not pulling out my computer to kind of remember, oh, I need to read that book or whatever it is somebody suggests. So, yeah, it's great for throwing little quick things into it. And then, you know, I have a default org file as well for all that personal task, kind of like what you're showing. And so, yeah, I kind of do that. And then when I'm back home, you can kind of craft those things as real to-dos and whatever else you want to do. But it's a great way of catching those little notes and then viewing the shopping list when you're out at the store, that sort of thing.
So you do use Dropbox for syncing, right?
I do.
Because Orgsly supports that. I don't like Dropbox, but that's the thing that like
exactly.
I have to live with it.
It's the pretty much why I use Dropbox is for that, because Orgsly pretty much only supports that. I mean, he's trying to add some extra stuff, but that's about all it really does reliably.
What was Orgsly, Jeff? What was the name?
Orgsly?
Orgsly.
O-R-G.
Is that a package Emacs or what?
It's an app.
It's an Android app.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I don't have to worry about that.
I think it's the only thing that makes my Android phone better than my family's iPhones.
I really wish for a few features. I mean, this app is pretty nice and neat, and it's like, you know, what else would you add? Like, you know, certain things like, you know, there's even agenda, right, in Orgsly. One thing I would love to see its ability to go to, like, you know, they don't have like full support for links yet, so you can like, you know, if you have links in as headers, you can go to the, but it's like a small thing. I mean, probably somebody will fix it. But the other bigger thing we're probably like, you know, we're never gonna see. I wish there was support for LaTeX, and it would be awesome to be able to draw some, like, you know, some mathematical formulas and immediately, like, you know, there's a app on Android called Detextify. It actually like understands your like LaTeX. Like you can use your pen. I have Note 8, and you can like, you know, draw some LaTeX here, and it actually tries to analyze that and actually says like, you know, I don't know if you guys can see it. So I can write a symbol right here, right? I can write a symbol, and it tries to analyze what mathematical symbol it is. It would be awesome to have something like this supported in Orgsly, because then it would be a dream app for students and for people in academia, like, you know, and people who use LaTeX. It would be great to have, like, you know, and given that org mode actually has extremely good support for LaTeX, it would have been great, but this is something that probably, like, you know, will be difficult to implement. Anyway, Orgsly is pretty nice, even without that feature.
Aaron's been saying some things in the chat room, and I want him to say them out loud.
Okay, I unmuted myself. So all I said was that LilyPond is apparently about 43% C++, 22% Scheme, 13% LilyPond, 12% Python, and 5% tech or whatever. And so I found the mirror on GitHub. Huh? Yeah, and make files is like almost 2%. And the other thing I pointed out was Lyx, LYX. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that. That's it's a word processor style GUI front end for LaTeX. So you can, it sort of like has it has a formula builder built inside of it that will create formulas, but it's also like sort of a not quite WYSIWYG. They call it what you see is what you mean instead. It's not. It doesn't like lay out everything you're typing as a page, but it looks kind of like output.
WYSIWYG doesn't exist. It's a hoax.
I like Emacs, and I stopped using Lyx when maybe a year or two into using Linux.
I tried using Lyx before, and my main problem was that like I was trying to learn tech, and I'm trying to learn and have to learn LaTeX, and then Lyx is like this entity that's like uses those things but isn't quite them, and has its own totally different format, and sort of tries to like make it very transparent, but tries to make it very friendly at the same time, and it tries too much, and I had to learn too much at once to do it, and it broke me. As opposed to Emacs, where it's like you start out with simple things, and then you get lost in all the crazy odds and ends of it.
It's too bad we didn't get John Kitchen, and he probably would say a lot of good things about. He wrote like some articles, and he wrote packages that work with LaTeX and org mode, and it's just amazing things that you can do. It's really nice. I love org mode, and I can't imagine like even like that's probably that and Magid probably two things that will never ever be able to like move to any other editors. Like even if I start using IDE, I always will have to have I'll come back to Emacs if for some reason I'm not gonna find a way to like to not to use that IDE, which I would probably not gonna use that language if it requires IDE different than Emacs.
What is your favorite OS now, Mac or Linux?
Well, as I said, Linux is really nice.
You can only answer yes or no. Which one?
Okay, Linux is nice. You know why? Because Emacs works a lot nicer in Linux. That's what I can say.
Hi, we got a new one. Gamer girl, hi.
Hi.
You muted.
Oh well, if you want to introduce yourself, you can, or not. That's okay too.
I have mic problems or something.
Let's see. Is there anything else on Satya's list we want to talk about? Unless anyone knows how to search in Greek.
Oh, that interests me.
Oh yeah.
see.
Someone posted a question about that.
So where is the question? Did you find it? How to search Greek?
Hi, Gamer Girl, are you trying to say something? Okay. Thanks, Aaron. All right. Hey, Gamer Girl, we're getting you a lot here. Are you?
Yeah, we're
talking?
hearing like science fiction noises. Must be a microphone problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything else? Anyone has something they want to talk about?
You guys using Spacemacs much lately?
I do.
Spacemacs? Yeah?
I'm a Spacemacs guy.
Do you, Howard? Do you?
I do, actually. It was an experiment to try converting over, and yeah, I've kind of gotten over the pain points, and I'm quite enjoying it, actually.
Oh, I see. So Spacemacs is your main
It is
Emacs?
now. I'm surprised, because, after 20 years of ELIS files,
Okay, wow.
I'm surprised I converted over, but I was able to jettison a lot of stuff from it when I converted over, but was still able to keep all the goodies. So
I see. Do you use EvoMod? Do you use EvoMod before or already?
No, well, yeah, that was another thing. I got a new keyboard, one of the Keyboardios, and
Keyboardio.
the arrow keys and the escape are right in the middle. So I thought, maybe it's about time to start learning or leveling up on the VI key bindings. So I switched over on my Emacs over, and I thought I'd just try it out over the winter break, where we're all kind of, you don't have to type quite as much because everybody's on vacation. And yeah, it kind of stuck on me. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm now full time in it. I can't believe I've converted so far.
By the way, some time ago, I started posting little tweets about tips, more like advanced tips that you can fit in single tweet. And
I like those.
They're mostly Spacemacs related, but you can actually deduce things, and even if you're not in Spacemacs, you can probably use the same packages. I try to make them more generic and tell this is the thing that comes from this package. But I'm having a hard time lately of I'm running out of ideas, mostly because things are not easily can be fit into a single GIF and just fit into a single tweet. But yeah, I love little things that you can. I think Spacemacs as a project achieved something it actually made Emacs a lot more popular lately, because it made it easier to get into Emacs. Before it was just hard. There were choices, and most of them they were difficult choices, and And with Spacemacs, you can actually like try something. There's and after some time, if you find it bloated, there are like different distributions of Spacemacs. There's base. You can start like with the very base stuff, bare bones, and like keep adding like packages as you need. Or as I do, like sometimes I like I just ignore packages that I don't need, or like sometimes things get broken because of upstream issues. Like people update their packages, and like and something breaks in my system. I just like and if I see it's easy to find when something breaks. Most of the time, it's easy to find and pinpoint the exact thing that is breaking in your config, and then I just remove that package, or like I add it to ignored packages list, and it never loads. Yeah, and I've been using Spacemacs on develop branch for the past probably 3 years. And surprisingly, develop branch, I find it more stable than master branch, because most of the issues today, they're upstream issues, like things like they're included, they become part of Spacemacs, but the creator of the package unaware of that, or like they simply don't care, and they add some new functionality which breaks Spacemacs, but it's not issue in Spacemacs, it's an upstream issue, and like and that needs to be fixed fast, because like and like people like fix it, and develop it gets things like that, they get fixed sooner than like done on master. So I find being on develop branch, it's actually like not like it is kind of cutting edge, but it's mostly stable. In the past 3 years, I probably had like 3 or 4 incidents that I needed to spend more than 10-15 minutes to figure out like why things break. Yep.
It sounds like Aaron likes living on the cutting edge too.
Spacemacs have CIDR built in, because I do use preload, because it has, as I am a closer programmer, preload has built-in CIDR installed in it. And does preload has does Spacemac has same kind of feature?
Spacemac has a notion of layers, and layers are basically they're like collections of packages, and it has a closure layer, and all the related packages. Like if you're doing closure or closure script development, that includes CIDR and other things as well, like Said, for example, and you can always add like your own layers, your custom layers that can derive from like official Spacemacs layers, and that's what I do. Like if you want to add like some customizations to specific layers, which is great. So
this is great.
Yeah, if you want to use CIDR, CIDR is it's a closure development.
It's a REPL and debugging environment.
Yeah,
it's a closure
interactive debugging environment for closure. Yes, it's written and maintained by Bojidar. Yeah. He also wrote Projectile and other good things.
Yeah, he also wrote Preload, so I use.
Yeah.
So
I don't have experience with Prelude, but I think Prelude is good. But I'm a Vimmer. I've been using Vim for like as long as I remember, like for a very long time, and I've tried almost every editor that has Vim like VI plugins or like Vim bindings, And one day I just woke up with the realization that Emacs can Vim better than Vim itself, and that's it's actually, it has like extremely good support for Vim emulation, and it like certain things you can do better in Emacs than in Vim, and they're like more customizable. Like, you know, for example, just a simple example, if you want to just like, you know, crazy idea, like, you know, not that I care about it. Like, for example, if you want to scroll not in the window that you have right now, but like, you know, if you have a split, a vertical split, and you want to scroll things on the left window while like cursor being on the right window, doing something like this with Vim script is extremely difficult. In Emacs, it's just like, I think it's built-in thing. It's like you just have to have key bindings there, and like, you know, even if it's not built in, to like writing the Emacs Lisp is not a trivial. It's a trivial thing. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not very
Emacs Lisp is easy.
Yeah.
Can someone describe Prelude for me? That sounds interesting.
Prelude, as I understand, is just another distribution of Emacs with included with some packages. You know.
Yeah, it's like a Emacs starters kit.
Right.
Yeah. It's a starter kit. Some batteries included. Like,
yeah.
You can. It has some Ruby mode, Elixir mode, and like it has built-in 30 programming language mode, more than 30 programming language mode. So it's good for programmer, I think.
Yeah.
There's another distribution that's becoming popular. It's a Doom mode. Doom, I think, not Doom mode. I think it's just called Doom. And people saying really nice things about that distribution. And I haven't used it myself. I use Spacemacs. So just in case if you guys want to try it.
Yeah, they kind of Emacs starter kits kind of come and go. You know, sometimes new ones come in, and sometimes they stop being maintained, things like that. There's also a Emacs Live or Emacs Live. Oh, that's Overtone. Have you guys heard of it? Emacs Live.
No, but I
think I heard
about Overtone. Overtone is a music API, I think. Like
right, but yeah, we were talking about it. But this one is the GitHub name actually have the Overtone name in it. Maybe it's written by the same guy. Maybe.
Oh.
For some reason. But anyway, oh yeah, it's the same guy. Okay, I see the screenshots. It shows the music stuff. It's pretty.
Yeah, apparently it's written by Sam Aaron.
Overtone is a nice thing. Like you can program music using Emacs. It's very handy.
I see. So is Overtone written in Emacs Lisp or?
I think it's Closure. I think.
Closure.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it's used as super collider, which is and there's also what's the Ruby thing called? He also wrote for Ruby, very popular. I forgot.
Sonic Pi.
Yeah, Sonic Pi. Yeah,
Sonic Pi.
It's extremely nice. I showed it to my kid, and he started like writing Ruby, then like getting interested in Ruby, and it's pretty nice. And Overtone is a similar thing, but for Closure, and it's really nice. And like given the dynamic nature and malleability of Clojure. Like, you can try things in Clojure REPL, and it's just, there is actually I'm gonna try to find it. There's a talk.
Yeah.
It's a talk, but basically a guy, he doesn't talk, he writes music
Yeah.
on the fly, and it's like, it's mind-blowing. He just, like, basically he writes music, like composing music, like pieces, like, just like in the code, and you can see it, and it's just like, wow, it's crazy. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, there are lots of things you can do with Emacs. For example, I use Emacs also lately. I'm using work mode as front end for Postgres. Like, I write queries and do everything database related in org mode, which is also awesome. All right.
How can I remove VI mode from SpaceMax? Because it's annoyed me. Like, I am Emacs user actually. I use VI, but occasionally.
When you install SpaceMax, and the first time you start it, it asks you like which you want to use. You can use Emacs mode. You can use VI. You can use hybrid mode for like, when you're like, in normal mode, it will use VI bindings. When you in edit mode, it will use Emacs bindings and VI bindings.
I would
pretty
suggest if you're not entirely, committed to avoiding VI key bindings, that you go with the evil mode if you're starting up with SpaceMax, because I think it's a really cool way to work, and SpaceMax seems to be built more around making it work with evil mode before, and the vanilla Emacs mode would be a little secondary. So I would think you'd get a little better interactivity, interoperability, and support if you stick with evil mode.
Okay.
So I would suggest you go with that one. But then you just need a list of VI key bindings nearby while you learn them.
People not familiar with Vim and VI, they say like Vim, like they talk about Vim as an editor, and actually Vim is not an editor. It's an idea, and it's a great idea. Just like Lisp is not a programming language. Lisp is an idea that, like, and we probably, like, 20 years from now, we'll be still programming in some kind of Lisp. Lisp kind of languages, they're never gonna die. And VI is a great idea. If you start, like, you just have to start at using it. I mean, and if you start using it, you may just like the idea. I like the idea. The only drawback of, like, if you're very heavy Vim user, evil, like, SpaceMax user, the only drawback, you used to do everything with two hands, and like if you lose the limp, that basically it's a game over for you. So you have to be very careful, I guess. Otherwise, it's like, I cannot type with, like, or do any operations with a single hand anymore.
One of the reasons I avoid VI and Vim is because of Vim script, and I don't want to learn another programming language or another script.
Vim script is not
a very good language.
Vim script is not that bad. It's just Lisp is nicer.
Right. I have a friend who managed to script Vim with Python, though, he gave a talk at a Python convention about it. And I think it would be really cool if we could like script Emacs with Python, because that's really what I'm an expert on. I'm an expert on Python. I don't know eLisp very well. If I'm doing any kind of Lisp, I've got the hyper polyglot page next to me, so you know I can work that out. But
that's the thing, though. Like with Lisp, you can emulate any language. You can create a DSL that look like just like Python, but it's gonna be in Lisp. You just have to deal with that mental thing that people complain about parentheses. I don't know why people complain about parentheses when I never had any formal introduction to Lisps before. I basically that was my the thing. I started with Emacs, and after a while I got into Lisp, and then that's how I got into Clojure. And before I just I didn't use any kind of Lisps, and people complained, and every single thing, every single book said hey, parentheses is not a problem. And I was like, yeah, after 8 hours or so, they were not a problem to me at all. I didn't see why people complain about it. And I meet a lot of people who are actually, I think they just can't read Lisp code. I don't know why. I call this dyslexia. It's just I don't know. It's parentheses. They help. I don't know why some people apparently they just they cannot read Lisp code, any Lisp code.
They're
but
allergic to parentheses.
I find Lisp is great because, especially on constrained screens, if you take your phone, you can it wraps things and you still can read it. Take any other language, at some point it becomes unreadable, right?
Yeah.
There's
Python.
Python, Haskell, JavaScript, any language that it becomes Lisp, you still can read it. The only drawback, the real drawback of Lisp, it's not suited for whiteboarding sessions and whiteboarding interviews, and it's just not meant for that. But other than that, it's just great. It changed the way how I write code. Especially Clojure. It just becomes writing code becomes like writing a prose.
Yeah.
I like Lisp parentheses mostly because it allows you to edit code, because textually you can find where's the beginning, where's the end. So that allows the editors to manipulate the code without having a complete parser. You can move code around. Like each parenthesis is a code unit. As opposed to, for example, C or JavaScript, where a line is not a code unit. There is no syntactical marker that says this is a unit.
I had to rebind caps lock as opening parenthesis so I could use Lisp easily.
Oh,
I
cool
have
idea.
this one here is the closing parenthesis, and then I put the backslash as the third level.
Hi guys, you want to introduce yourselves? Eric?
Sure. Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. I have a Debian laptop here, and I guess the video camera shows up as green for you guys. So I'm Eric Anderson. I'm from Minnesota, and I'm Nick Drost. I live in Minnesota. I'm not from here. And,
awesome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we just had a hack night tonight, and I saw Shaw. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah. Sa.
Sa.
Well,
okay.
I say Sa, but Sa is perfectly good.
Okay.
So,
I saw your tweet a couple days ago mentioning that you guys were going to meet up, so we thought we'd try tuning in.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Howard, I actually started using Emacs. Is he still here?
No, he just left.
Ah, shit. Well, anyway, I saw one of his videos where he shows like how you write the code that will allow you to insert a line below where the cursor is and then set it to a key binding. And I thought, oh wow, it's a really neat process. I'll use that editor. That was it. That was the thing. And then saw your websites have been extremely useful to
Thank
me,
you.
especially starting out. Very useful stuff.
Emacs for the masses.
Yeah.
I find as I've been growing into like Emacs orthodoxy, I find it a little harder to follow when all the things are renamed to alt and all those things. But certainly as a beginner, it was unbelievably helpful, all that stuff. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Really.
What were you guys hacking on tonight?
It's sort of a language agnostic meetup. So some people are hacking microcontrollers, other people are just writing Python or Bash scripts. We find that we talk a lot more about ELIST than we do actually writing it. As far as we know, there haven't been any Emacs meetups in the Twin Cities, at least for a long time. And so we just sort of tried to start one. Or we had a successful meetup, 6 of us.
Yeah.
About a month ago, and we're going to have one again in a couple weeks.
Yeah, cool.
That's great. If you guys can record it, that would be great. But we can probably follow up with Jeff. Jeff organizes closure Emacs meetup here in San Francisco. So you know, you can definitely organize, and we can probably do a group meetup, but it's hard with given that like our time zone. It's probably that the rest of the continental United States are they're sleeping right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so check out the acronym we got. We got Emacs Minneapolis and City St. Paul.
Okay. Don't tell it to Richard Stallman, because he would convince you. He would try to convince to rename it to GNU/Emacs.
We need to come up with 3 more letters, I guess.
3 more letters.
Minneapolis. That's a city I remember Prince is from. That's how I was associated.
I think of it as the home of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, is it?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Are you guys on meetup.com or on some other? How do you organize your meetup?
Email and word of mouth to about 6 people.
Oh, can I get on the list? I actually go to Minneapolis sometimes.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
Can you? I don't know.
I'm typing in a chat window right now.
Here.
Okay.
In Hangouts or Google?
The Hangout chat on the right side of the screen. I don't know.
Okay, we are on a phone right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Can you still see us?
Yep.
No, just a picture of your face. Okay. You can just maybe comment or on the YouTube.
Here, let me try to open the desktop one again. Is this the chat? Let's see. So much nicer.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is. Yep.
how to do that. If you can't see the chat window, Yeah, are you on GitHub or anything? Can I message you there?
Yep. I just sent my Twitter handle on the.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
So, out of curiosity, I wrote a library last fall that if any of you have any interest in JavaScript programming, I would appreciate some feedback. The library is called TUI, and it's so if you're at all familiar with the React API, it basically implements the React API, except instead of rendering graphics into a browser, it renders text into Emacs.
Oh,
so
interesting.
I designed it, or I wrote it in order to build complex user interfaces, because I was finding Emacs was not performant for building a complex UI, and I got sort of stuck in a lot of imperative hell, if you will.
Have you ever tried ClojureScript?
I haven't.
Okay.
It's high on my list.
I've been dealing with JavaScript, or I've been trying not to deal with JavaScript, and I've tried many popular ways. I've done CoffeeScript, LiveScript, GorillaScript, Haste, JCJS, and I finally found ClojureScript, and it's just amazing. I mean, it's pretty boring, but it works, and it just works. It's very pragmatic, and I really like it.
Do you use it in Emacs for writing Emacs logic? Or just external applications?
I use ClojureScript to write web apps.
Okay.
I have a question about these ClojureScript or others that compiles to JavaScript. So my question is, like when you call the DOM interface, how do you do that in ClojureScript or others? Like in JavaScript, you have document. Let's say add event handler. I think there's one called add event. Well, I don't remember the name. But anyway, so how do you call DOM functions with the
First
where
of all,
the syntax is all different?
No. First of all, we don't have to deal with DOM directly.
Oh, I see.
Since we're on top of React, and React gives you this absolute guarantee of idempotency that if you keep sending the data and the data doesn't change, it will not re-render until the data changes, unless the data changes. So we rarely have to touch DOM. But what's great with ClojureScript is actually it adds some idioms. You can call JavaScript, any JavaScript functions directly. It's basically hosted on JavaScript engine, and you can call any functions. You can change properties. You can access DOM. You can do anything you can do with JavaScript. You can do with ClojureScript. The syntax will be a little different, but you can do it.
Does it require JVM? Does it run on JVM or?
ClojureScript itself does not require JVM, but we usually use JVM to compile ClojureScript because it uses a Google Clojure library. Clojure spelled with S. I know it's confusing, but that's how. Even the Scala people do the same thing with Scala.js.
So the Google Clojure is a dependency? That's a big one. That's a very huge one.
Yeah, but even today, that library is no other way of dealing with no other compiler can do stuff like Google Clojure can do. It's really robust, and it's proven, and it's old, but it really works well. And I think Google started porting it into JavaScript, but the performance is still like, you know, it's missing certain things, and it's performance-wise, it's not there yet. It's not on par with the one that Google Closure itself still requires JVM, right? So and since you need JVM to compile JavaScript, you can also use it as a server, but it's not necessarily you know, requirement, and especially
because they have the Closure script. It has its own compiler without JVM, right? But the features are limited. That's what you're saying.
No, what I said, the Closure, Google Closure, they ported also Google Closure compiler into to run on JavaScript without needing JVM, but that one is not as performant.
Okay.
The other thing, you can use ClojureScript for writing small scripts, even without having to use anything else. You can use Lumo or Plank, which are executables, and you can run ClojureScript almost natively on, like, you know, it will use Node, and you can run for scripting, for example. People use it like it's a lot better, like, you know, than Bash, for example, and it starts pretty fast. You know, JVM starts, like, it takes some time to start, but
yeah, that my problem with Closure is JVM. Yeah, you know, I don't like Java and JVM, but Closure is good. But you know,
try Lumo for if you're writing small scripts. You can use Lumo. Probably you can use Lumo without JVM at all.
Yeah, actually, Java is bad, but JVM is not that type of bad thing like Java.
Yeah, I mean, JVMs take Java, and JVM takes a lot of beating lately, and, like, you know, people say a lot of things about, like, you know, the language itself. Yes, maybe it's not a great language, but if you look under the hood, JVM is actually very, very good piece of technology.
Yeah,
It's pretty solid, and it's extremely fast and predictable. So yeah, give a try. Try ClojureScript. Like, you know, if you compare ClojureScript, it's called hiccup syntax with JSX. You just have to be crazy not to say, like, you know, oh, like this thing, the ClojureScript syntax actually looks a lot nicer than JSX, and certain idioms, certain things, like, you know, since everything immutable by default, your state management becomes predictable. You can actually, like, know and how to build things predictably and, like, change things predictably. It's a lot nicer. I think, like, you know, things we're using today, I try to compare with, like, favorite like popular frameworks like MobX, like Redux, Relay, and I feel like, you know, we just maybe half a step ahead always. Like, you know, it's pretty neat, and yeah, just give it a try.
Definitely.
I always like I always think a lot, like, you know, where actually we're going. Like, you know, the web is definitely changing, JavaScript evolving, and not necessarily in a good way. There are, like, you know, I can rant about things for hours because, like, you know, probably I'm just getting, like, older, and, like, you know, just like I'm not happy about things anymore. Like, take, for example, Facebook. They take absolutely normal, nice syntax of OCaml, sprinkled with, like, you know, with some commas and semicolons, and called it reason, which is totally unreasonable to me. I don't know why they did it. I understand why they did it, to appeal to, like, you know, people coming from JavaScript. They wanted to like, you know, JavaScript to look, but I don't know. Anyway, I have 3% on my battery. If I suddenly leave, please don't be offended.
I think I'm much more interested in Reason. I've been looking into it. Reason ML. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Reason, but to be honest, after like dubbing with Lisp, and I just you have to like, you know, I just like the
You are sold to Lisp. Yeah.
Symbolic expressions are nice. You have to pry those as expressions like out of my dead cold hands. I just like Lisps.
Yeah, it used to be like every 2 years or 3 years, someone will create a project that translates some other language in a Lisp syntax. But I don't seem to see that happen now. Like it used to, like it happened with Haskell. Like someone created a project called Liskal or something, but that kind of died. But anyway.
Well, the languages come and go, and but again, I'm pretty sure 20 years from now, we will still have some kind of Lisp. It may not be the most popular choice, but it will be there. It will be, I mean, it's Lisps are kind of thing that, like, you know, you cannot just simply kill.
Yeah, well, Clojure is gonna be around. Like.
Hey, Aaron, can we see your T-shirt?
Aaron, yeah.
Nice.
Is this the shirt I was wearing the last time too?
Oh. Is this machine learning or something?
Yeah, it's I got it at an R conference. I forget the name of the company. I guess they need to make their logo a little more obvious. But it was actually like a company's T-shirt. But it looked so cool, I took it. They were giving them away. I didn't steal it.
Sorry for the audio interruption. We need to take off.
Well, I'm glad you could attend. Hope we'll see you at a future one of these.
Yes, we will watch the Twitter sphere, and Jeff, we will CC you on anything that happens here in the Twin Cities. Cool.
Nice meeting you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys, I gotta go too. I think they're like, you know, cleaning people. They started a huge vacuum. You probably can hear it, and it's pretty annoying. Probably, and my battery is dying. So it was really nice to see you all. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Yep, nice to see you again.
This was fun. You can host next time, BTW.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.
I'm glad we did this. Cheers.
Yeah, maybe I could.
Yeah.
This is a good time for me to say, by the way, that I don't have to host it every time. I'm not emotionally caught up in the Hangout or anything. So I think it's going to be kind of irregular. I think if other people want to jump in and host a few times, that'll help make it happen more frequently.
Yeah, I think I might try to do it. You know, but
You did great last time.
Yeah, I'm not much of a guy to stick to schedules, so I don't know. So it might be, you know, spontaneous. Yeah.
I think that's okay. Does anyone else have a topic they'd like to get into?
I keep having this problem. I've had for a long time. I've been using Emacs that whenever I do something that require the first time in an Emacs session that I do something that has like a pop-up completions buffer. It'll pop up 2 of them, and one of them will get focus, and I have no idea why, because it only happens the first time I do a suggestions buffer where you type something in the MIDI buffer and press tab, and it displays all your options. The first time it does this, it'll always display 2 of those buffers, and so it'll take up the whole screen, and it's great. And then I have to close one and then switch back to the mini buffer, and then choose one of the other ones. It's really annoying, but I have no idea how to go about rooting that out.
I feel like this is a run something in the Lisp debugger kind of situation, right?
Yeah, it might be.
Are you using company mod or anything like that, or completion mod? You're not talking about those, right?
I was using let's see. I do use like icicles and such, but it happened before I was using that. I wish I had my it might have even been before I started using Ergo Emacs. I'm not sure.
So what do you
around
mean?
that same time.
Okay, what do you mean 2 buffers popping up?
Okay. Normally, it's supposed to open a new, window pane with a new window, as it's called in Emacs terminology, and it'll open that. It'll open the completions buffer at the same time. Open another one of the same buffer, another window above it. That'll take up the same
buffer.
Exactly. It'll take up the rest of the screen, and this extra one will get focus. And I don't know why it happens, especially not why it happens only the first time.
I'm thinking my first reaction, I'm thinking it might be some hook from some package is doing that.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I was just wondering if it was. I couldn't seem to find anything about anyone having a similar problem. So.
But what language are you using for completion? I mean, what are you using completion for?
I mean, it's like if I am looking for, if I'm, searching, F1F to find a function description, or V to find a variable, or if I'm, just doing the regular MX, or all A for me, to find just to execute a command. Anytime any package opens the pop-up buffer, well, the first time it happens for any package, this problem will happen, and then it will go away for the rest of the session. And even sometimes I have it with things that aren't even completion buffers, that aren't even completion suggestions, but they're just using that same pop-up functionality. I don't know exactly where the problem starts. But anyway, I was just tossing around to see if anyone had any ideas.
I haven't happened to me.
Okay.
I'm thinking it must be some package or your Emacs in it. Like if you start Emacs with -q, which means doesn't load any in it, then maybe if that still happens.
I think if I do that, it doesn't happen anymore. It's just I have to figure out where in my configuration is causing this.
Is there not some way to just be like, okay, debugger, I'm about to execute a command by this series of keystrokes. Follow that and everything downstream that happens, and give me like a backtrace or something. I'd
like that. Is mainly when I've used edebug, I've just done, gone into the menu and instrument this function for debugging. But I'm not sure how to like debug my next action or anything like that.
Well, I would think, you can find out what function your keystroke is going to execute, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I haven't actually done this, okay, mind you. I'm just trying, like, but if like maybe you could like do whatever you did to instrument the call to the one function, figure out what your keystroke was going to do, say go debug this call.
Yeah. That's the next step, I think. Thanks. Anyone else got pressing Emacs matters?
Are we all out of topics now?
Okay, how do I become a super Emacs expert? How do I do that?
There's a book from like Sam's that's called like Learn Emacs in 24 hours. Wow. That's an unrealistic goal right there.
Aaron, you code a lot of Python, right? So what's your Python setup like? Like what package do you use?
So you mean like at work?
Yeah.
So at work, I use an IDE that was built at work. So they built it. It works. It's kind of like Eclipse. It's got the version control built into it. It's got the review raising system built into it. So it's got a server that I can connect Emacs to somehow. So theoretically, I can work on files inside of Emacs, but it seems like it's more trouble than it's worth. I try to use I use Emacs on my laptop. I use Emacs when I'm using Secure Shell into something else. But for the most part, when I'm like working on Python code, I'm using the IDE that we have at work, and
it's a proprietary IDE. I mean, it's like you don't. I mean, is it commercial?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What sort of? That sounds like it must be a really big company to invest in their own IDE.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. You don't have to tell us. It's okay.
I'll give you a hint. It's a really big bank, and it's in America.
Okay.
That narrows it down.
So I might call it the bank.
So U.S. Bank, you're saying?
Oh no, no. But I think let's change the subject though. All right. What about the official Emacs tutorial? I tell people all the time to use the official Python tutorial. Is the official Emacs tutorial? I just can't get myself to finish it. Do I need to just like knuckle down and finish the official Emacs tutorial?
That one is pretty short. It's like in 5 minutes you can be done with it. I mean, which official Emacs tutorial are you talking about?
You mean the introduction to Emacs list?
The one that comes with Emacs.
It's like Control HT or something like their tutorial.
Yeah, that one is pretty short. Like, if I recall correctly, it's like you can finish the whole in 3 minutes or 5.
I have spent like hours trying to finish it. Maybe I have ADD or something, but I can't get myself to finish it.
I love the part where it says, you could use the arrow keys to navigate, but we're sure you'll find it much easier to use a Control P, Control N, Control F, and Control B.
Yeah.
I guess. Sure.
And I'm not sure I'm convinced.
I
don't know.
So I have a question for Gamer Girl. Where are you connecting from?
I'm from Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
Oh, nice.
Where is that?
It's in Southeast Asia. It's beside India and Myanmar. In between India and Myanmar, it is Bangladesh.
Can you type it? Like, I can't figure out what country.
Yeah.
Bangladesh. So we have a map here.
Yeah.
Oh, Bangladesh. Okay. How do you say it?
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be East Pakistan.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Then
We it's amazing. We usually don't have people from there.
Thank you for joining us. It must be early in the morning.
Yeah, it's early in the morning. And guy, I need to leave now. Thank you very much. Looking for next meetup.
Great. We'll see you again.
Okay, great to
nice
meet you.
meeting you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think Emacs in 24 hours sounds reasonable.
I don't feel like a comprehensive tutorial even makes sense for Emacs because the whole thing is about customization and personalization, and it has to always be about what your needs are, other than the basic editing command.
Have you seen XA's Emacs tutorials?
No.
Aaron?
I've seen his site. I've seen a few things. He has
really good like beginner tutorials.
So my thoughts are like that I should try to use everything out of the box as much as possible. And
but you've been using Emacs for a few years already, right? Since 2008, you said.
More like 2010, but but it's like I've been slowly escalating into it, when I switched to Linux, I used gedit, I used Nano and VI and other text editors, SCITE, I think for editing LaTeX some, but always with like the goal that I should really just use Emacs. And so I stopped using the graphical editors. I only use VI like if I just need to edit one line and then leave now. Although now actually I've set it up so that Emacs runs with the server model with the daemon. So now if I launch Emacs from inside of a terminal with Emacs-NW, it launches really quickly. So although now I've gone back to using Spacemacs. So I was using Spacemacs for I was using Spacemacs a couple years back, and I used it for maybe a half a year or so, and I was telling other people about it. And I thought it was kind of cool, but stuff would just randomly not work. And I'd have to delete lots of bytecode. It was like cached bytecode, and it was just not working. So I stopped using Spacemacs for maybe a year or so, and then we had an IDE night at the Python meetup, and I showed off Emacs, and so I was the last one to go. So while they were doing final announcements, before they started doing final announcements, I was like, so let me just move my .emacs folder over. I'll just clone Spacemacs and show you how easy that is. And so I cloned Spacemacs into where it's supposed to go, and launched it. And then, like, while they were making the closing announcements, I was demonstrating Spacemacs in the background, and it was like updating, and it had a cool, looking interface and everything. So since I got Spacemacs on there, I was like, well, okay, if I have any issues, I can just delete it and go back to my old, Emacs. And but I haven't had any issues so far. And my big problem was when I had an issue. It was so hard to find help, so hard to figure out, what was wrong. I'd have to go on Getter and maybe wait for somebody who could answer my question. And because, but with Emacs, if I have a problem, I can just Google it, and the answer is out there because, Emacs has such a large user base. It's been around for so long. I can easily solve a problem with Google. But with Spacemacs, if Spacemacs has a problem, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to solve it with Google. So, so that's always in the back of my mind. But Spacemacs seems to be working fine for me right now, so I'm going to just keep going with it, and we'll see what happens. And eventually I'll learn eLisp, and maybe I can make some contributions into the upstream. That'd be cool. I have contributions in CPython. It's mostly documentation, but I'm trying to contribute back to the people who have created such incredible software.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
I was thinking earlier that since you're building Emacs, do you go through the process where we had this guy Dan Kulishon on at the meetup like a couple of months back, and he was super interesting, and he was talking about the Emacs startup process, and he was explaining that because there's so much Lisp that gets kind of loaded at the beginning. Like, there's so much of the code that's not in C that if you actually let it go and load all of the stuff at launch time, it would be very, very slow. And so there's a process where there's a sort of stripped down version of Emacs, and it loads all of this Lisp, and then it actually saves it out as a memory image, and then from then on it just loads it and runs. Have you dealt with any issues related to that?
So I think what you're referring to is the bytecode, right? It saves the eLisp as bytecode.
Yeah,
And,
ELC.
so it's similar to how Python works. And Python compiles its Python code down to bytecode that runs in the Python virtual machine. And,
I think Jeff refers to something else. There's a hack, specific to Emacs. So
okay.
It's so unusual that a lot of people complain because it's a big giant hack to make Emacs run faster. I don't know the details. I don't know why they cannot just do it normally or whatever. But
I launch Emacs with the daemon. I'm using Linux, so that works. It doesn't work on Windows for some reason. Maybe it'd be a good idea if we could make it work on Windows. We'd have fewer people complaining about it. But if we can run, I run Emacs on this with the server sort of model, and that launches really fast.
Yeah. So
I'll do it right now. What do I got to do? Emacs NW. And 1, 2, splitting Spacemax to Spacemax is ready. Now it's asking me about recent files. And so that was like maybe 5 seconds. And that's with Spacemax. Because it I think it went out to update stuff. So, I mean, that was pretty darn fast, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Dan was saying that by default and the way Emacs normally works is when it is built, there's a very bare bones version of Emacs created, and then that thing is run. It loads a whole bunch of Lisp, and then it stores out a memory image of everything that it loaded. So not byte compiling. This is a separate thing where even the byte compiled stuff, if you loaded it, would be too slow. So this is actually literally just mapping in a memory image of all of these sort of basic foundational Lisp code that you would need for everything else. And then from then on, when Emacs launches, it launches and then it maps in this whole big binary into a fixed place in memory. And the process of doing this is called the dumper, evidently. And so I've posted his slides there, and he's talking about the problem with it is that you can't use address space randomization, so it's a security issue. Like that block of memory has to always go into the same spot in the program's address space. And so he's talking about solutions to that. And anyway, it was all about the Emacs startup process, so I thought you would find it interesting.
I think I've heard of this before, but
what's his name?
Yeah.
Dan, Jeff.
It's Colachon. I'll spell it. That's in our chat window. He actually is super interesting. I follow him on Facebook now, and he has some like really interesting stuff that he posts there, and a lot of it is about Emacs, but sometimes about other stuff.
Oh yeah.
He's at Google.
Yeah. He works at Facebook right now, right? I think so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I think he's at Google. Well, okay. that makes sense.
Okay, maybe I'm mistaken, but he's also the guy who wrote a very popular blog about how Emacs code about handling Windows, X Windows is very convoluted, right? It's called Butterfly Windows. I forgot the
same person. Yeah.
Same person? Yeah, okay. And I know. Well, I'm familiar with I heard of it. Yeah. But I remember him as it was almost 10 years ago when Emacs does not have a JavaScript mod bundled. So at that time, there's another guy, very popular, Steve Yegg, who works at Google. Have you guys heard of him?
I have.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he wrote this huge, I think it's called JS2 mod for JavaScript for Emacs, which contains a JavaScript compiler, the whole JavaScript compiler, fully standard compliant. So yeah, and it has real-time syntax validation. So it's called JS2 mod. It's still popular, on Mailpub. So he offered to Emacs dev, let's bundle, I offer this, I'm willing to work whatever you guys need. But then there's this guy who said, no, who wants this humongous? Why don't we just use, like a simple JavaScript mod? And that guy is this dang guy. I didn't know, that's, I thought, who's this guy, this young kid, come out. So anyway, it ends up, so JS2 mod is not bundled. Instead, we, the dang guy, he forked a simple JavaScript mod, and that's what we have, the JavaScript mod in Emacs. So that's how I remember him. But yeah. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, he's very smart.
Yeah, apparently he is. Yeah. So anyway, so I actually haven't finished my dinner. I want to eat it, but so I think I should go and eat your dinner.
I feel like we've done a great job on this meetup. It's 2.5 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for running it.
Forever on the internet.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great.
And thank you for the setup. So do you are you going to write a blog about it? Like, I would be interested in knowing how to do the whole thing, because I might do it. Yeah.
And it turns out, so I created a separate account called Emacs SF, but you can it's like what they call a brand account, and so you can have different people manage it, and so it's totally possible to have a different person host Hangout, and so it's I think it's going to be good for us to like share this around and keep using it, and yeah, I'm excited. This is my first like content creation experience. I really appreciate the help that you gave me, Lee, getting this to work, by the way.
Yeah, testing. Yeah.
And Satya with advice. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. That got anything else? Yeah.
Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, I'll see you online or in real life.
Yeah, Mountain View, right? The next meetup.
There's actually one in Oakland. There's a coffee one in Oakland, which you probably won't make it for, and then the Mountain View one is a similar thing. But this will be our first Mountain View meetup, so I'm excited about that. I think there's got to be a lot of people in the South Bay who can't make it up to our other meetups.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Xa.
So before I stop the broadcast, I'm just going to say a few words, which are, this has been the inaugural, possibly erratically scheduled Emacs SF Hangout, and maybe there will be more. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.